The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
By tomorrow, I will rule the world!
You think he's gone? He's not gone. That's the whole point. He's never gone.
Is this some radical new therapy?
You see?
Well, I must have not been paying attention when you were just talking to me. Do you think that you could repeat the question? And I listened more attentively. There must have been something in all of that nothing that wasn't quite so easy to see. And I must have missed something when you were just talking to me.
All right, let's get this show on the road. I have no time for Baba Buzz today, and no energy either.
All right.
Hi, how you guys doing? My name is Tom Duggan here. We're going to Pay Attention podcast. Hi atop, two guys smoke shop at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. We got a pretty good show for you today. We've got Rich Russell from the Lawrence City Council, who's been trying forever to get on the Lawrence City Council. He finally made it, so congratulations to Rich. A couple of things I want to get to before we talk to Rich. Before we get to Rich. I was very surprised this morning. I posted just randomly, I was watching TV about what's going on in Hawaii, and I was watching CNN, and they were showing all the Red Cross workers, and it reminded me how horrible the Red Cross is, so I made a little post online about how you should never, ever, ever give money to the Red Cross, ever. They do these shady things, like they set up like a hotline with the name of the disaster in it, like 1-800-HURRICANE RELIEF or 1-800-HELP-HAWAII. And the money that you give does not go into a fund. You need to understand this. The money that you give does not go into a fund for that specific disaster. And the money that you give almost never goes to the people in that disaster. The money goes for administration. I think the head of the Red Cross makes somewhere upwards of almost $1 million or more. The people who work there make tons of money. And what was really surprising about this is usually when I post something like this, the reaction I get on Facebook, and I always like to gauge my reaction because we've got like 16,000 followers on Facebook. So it's a pretty good representative sample of what people out there are thinking. And normally when I post something like this, I get like 50% pushback. Come on, Tom, they do good work. And then the other 50% kind of agrees with me. So far today, it's like 90% people kicking the shit out of the Red Cross, giving their personal stories. In fact, one guy who fights with me on a regular basis because he hates Donald Trump like crazy and is constantly fighting with me on Facebook came on today and said, yeah, I volunteered for them during one disaster. You're not going to believe the corruption that goes on in the Red Cross. Then another guy came on underneath and talked about, we posted a story. I actually won an award from the New England Press Association in 2006 called Red Cross, for a story called Red Cross Nightmare. We had a flood in Lawrence in 2006, and after 2 days in a shelter, the Red Cross pulled up and decided that they were skipping town, and they notified everybody in the shelter that they got to get out, and started taking people's belongings and putting them in plastic bags and putting them on the sidewalk. And at the time, I was very friendly with the mayor, who was Mike Sullivan in Lawrence, and the mayor of Methuen was Billy Manzi. And I called both of them and said, you're not going to believe what's going on down here, because I just happened to be there when it happened. And they both came down, and you should have seen the National Red Cross administrators who were there running around trying to pull down the signs as they saw the mayors coming that said everyone has to be out by 3 p.m. And it was, and they got confronted, and they started lying. And I'm standing there while they're lying to both mayors and State Representative Willie Lantigua, by the way. And I'm standing there while this is all going on, and they're lying. And I just spoke up and said, I was here, gentlemen, I was here when you got up and you made the announcement that everyone has to go. Why are you lying? And one of the things that we learned through that in 2006 is that when they put people up in shelters for usually 24 to 48 hours, what they don't tell those people is that most of the people in the shelter were under the impression or misimpression that while they were there, Red Cross people were making phone calls to try and find them shelter. They weren't. They weren't doing any of that. They put them up so that when the cameras showed up, they could say, look how great we are. Please donate more money. And then the minute the cameras went away, they were putting people's belongings in trash bags and literally putting them on the sidewalk. and putting them out. And we took pictures and video of all of it. Still, if you Google Valley Patriot Red Cross Nightmare, that story will come up. We won a New England Press Association award for that. Nothing has changed. In fact, it's gotten worse. It's gotten far worse. If you really want to help someone involved in a disaster, if you really feel bad for people in a hurricane disaster or what's going on in Hawaii, just do a little bit of research. Find a local organization that knows people, family members who live locally, who are family members of people in the disaster. Contact them directly and give directly to the victims directly. I want to say directly like 5 more times. Because if you give to the Red Cross, if you give to the what's the other big one, Rich, that takes all the money for administration. I can't remember the other one.
United Way.
United Way. You give to the United Way, you give to the Red Cross, you might as well open your window and throw the money out. Because all of that money is going for, and it's sad, but what they do is the Red Cross pays off the media. They pay off CNN, they pay off Fox News, they pay off the local media to make sure that they only get positive press. And whenever somebody complains, whenever somebody tries to raise issues that I'm talking about today, then the media attacks that person. And 4, 5, and 7 will go crazy digging into that person's background and finding out, some allegation from their ex-wife to try and discredit them so that no one will listen. But I'm going to tell you right now, through first-hand experience and second and third-hand experience that I've had with the Red Cross over the years, never, ever, ever give your money to the Red Cross. So I want to start the show with that because I know there's a lot of good people out there who mean well, who want to help, and they think that writing a check to the Red Cross is going to help. That money is not going to go to the people in Hawaii. I'm just telling you right now, it's not going to go there. It's going to go to a whole bunch of other stuff. I also want to say our condolences to Frank Can's family, Frank Can from FH Can. He's also was the treasurer of TMF. He was very instrumental in helping TMF. TMF is the movement family. They're the kids that, volunteer their time Wednesday nights to feed the homeless. Frank Can has been very instrumental in helping them get their nonprofit status, in helping them get donations, in helping them really kind of work their way from just a bunch of kids feeding pizza to the homeless to what it is today. And he passed away this past week. I was at the wake yesterday. It was probably one of the saddest wakes I've been to in a long time. I feel the loss because I knew Frank well, but I really feel the loss more for the community because we ran into Frank and his family at Lawrence High alumni dinners, giving thousands of dollars in scholarships to kids, at the Lawrence Exchange Club scholarship dinner where Frank gave thousands of dollars to kids. And in fact, if you pick up this edition of the Valley Patriot, there's a story in here. It's a small one, but there's a story in here about the Exchange Club giving thousands of dollars just last month to a bunch of kids for scholarships. And we listed, not knowing that Frank was almost about to pass away. I think it was a surprise to all of us. How much money the Exchange gave versus how much money Frank Can gave out of his pocket. And that's the kind of person that Frank was. And I know that we're going to feel it with the homeless community. I know that people who go out and try and raise money for scholarships for local kids, they're going to feel it. And so my condolences to the family, but also my condolences to the community, because the community is going to feel this loss a year from now when local organizations are trying to do good things. There's not going to be a Frank Can there to help out, and so the world was a much better place with a guy like Frank Can in it. I'll tell you that much. And so to his family, to everybody at TMF that's feeling it, we just want to let you know that we're thinking about you. One more thing. Tomorrow night at the China Blossom, I think it's at 8:30. Let me just double check here. Let me pull it up. Tomorrow night at 8:30 at China Blossom is going to be the round 2 of the comedy contest. Now, I've been asked to be a judge for tomorrow night for round 2. And this is always something I always have a lot of fun when I get asked to do stuff like this because it's not political, so it's not controversial. People don't get angry at you. They did this the year before COVID at Salvatore's. I had so much fun. At this. It's only $10 to get in. So you come in, you order some food, you get a great comedy night, and I want to encourage people to come to this. I'm not making any money, by the way. I do this for free. But I want to encourage people to come to this because in this environment where everybody's so offended by everything, comedians have a really tough job. And I remember at Salvatore's a few years ago, right before COVID, when I did this, somebody actually started heckling the comedian because she was offended and got up and walked out and made like a big spectacle out of it. And it's got to be tough because 20 years ago, you didn't have this. Comedian could get up and talk about anything he wanted. Could make racial jokes, could make jokes about women, could make jokes about whatever he wanted, and people would just laugh. People would just have fun. And today, everybody's so angry. Everybody's got a pole up their ass today. And so it's very tough for these guys. And so I want to encourage you to come cheer on the comedians, laugh, have something to eat, have something to drink, and you can hang out with me. We'll be in the bar afterwards having a little bit of fun. I don't drink, but I'll buy you guys a drink. How's that? So we got that. I also want to thank our sponsors, then we'll get right to Rich. I'm sorry, Rich. I know we're...
Yeah, no problem.
McLennan Real Estate, Century 21, Zany Pesci Law Office, Morrison and Son Construction. Ronnie Morrison is going to be here next week. He's a former city councilor in Methuen. He's running again this year. He's running in the East District. We want all of our friends to make sure they vote for Ronnie Morrison. He's a really good guy, does a lot for the veterans, and he was a pretty good city councilor, too. We didn't always agree. In fact, sometimes we really vehemently disagreed. But I always knew when we disagreed that he believed what he was doing was the right thing. And I always liked that. Like I was telling Eunice Ziegler that yesterday. I ran into Eunice Ziegler, the president of the Methuen City Council, one of the few people on the council that I still like. And I told her, I said, I like you because when we disagree, I know you're not just disagreeing because you're taking a position that other people want you to take. You're not a puppet for anybody. You really believe what you're saying, and you really believe that your position is the correct position to take. So we're looking forward to that. Also want to thank EIS, Investigation and Gun Training, Borelli's Deli. Wait, we have tomorrow's Sandwich of the Day. Do we have that? This is tomorrow's Sandwich of the Day. Look at that. This is the Italian Vera. So I'm just warning you right now. If you show up at 1 o'clock tomorrow, they say they serve till 4, but if you show up at like 1 o'clock tomorrow, this is going to be gone. I've gone a few times afternoon, and they're already sold out. This is the Italian Vera. Get there early. It's mortadella, capicola salami, provolone, hot cherry peppers, diced tomatoes, onions, pickles, and oil. I'll probably get mine without the oil. I'm not really much of an oil guy, but look how great that looks. And I also want to thank Borelli's Deli. They came to TMF last night and donated all the food for the homeless. And I think they brought, I lost count at 10 trays of food. And this wasn't like crap food either. This isn't like, wedding food or food that you get like we can go to a Methuen political fundraiser. This was like chicken palm, veal palm. This was broccoli and ziti. It was really good food. It was like their top of the line stuff. I was a little disappointed no sausages. I was looking for the hot sausages because that's like my favorite that they make. But such great guys. And they didn't just come and drop the food off. Now, I appreciate any food place that wants to donate food. They come and they bring the food and then they leave. And that's fine. I don't want to denigrate anyone who does that because it's great that they come. But it's even better when they come and they stay. So the guys from Borelli's came last night and they stayed the entire night. In fact, they were still there when I left. They were serving food. They were talking to the homeless. They were talking to people about what their lives were all about. They were having that one-on-one. And that's what's really important about servicing the addicted and the homeless community in any community, but especially in Lawrence, is talking to these people and finding out what their story is and figuring out like why they're where they are. Because then we all kind of get together afterwards and talk about how we can help certain individuals. And that's how, Michael and Nancy and Kevin and myself and a bunch of other people, that's how we figure out, like, who among these people can we help the best? Like, who is it that, there's a lot of people in the streets that don't want help. But there are a lot of people in the streets that do want help. And so we try to target those individuals. We'll feed anybody. We try to target those individuals to get them into rehab, to get them into transitional housing, to get them apartments, to get them jobs, to get them transportation. And it's really a one-stop shop. TMF is like a one-stop shop for the homeless. So I have actually more to say about this. Next week I may be talking about the MVRTA and the scummy thing that they tried to pull last week. But I'm going to hold that because we got Rich here. I also want to thank Tomo and Shaken Seafood, Clear Path for Veterans New England, the Mercurio Law Office, AFC Urgent Care, Pleasant Valley Landscaping, our buddy Dave Id Consoli, Stacks in Haverhill, Loaded in Haverhill, Par 28 in Salem, New Hampshire, and a free shout out to JG's. I also have one more shout out. Let's do this. Do we have that other photo? So they're not sponsoring the show, but in my lifetime, I've had 100 people say, Tom, try the lamb. We'll be out somewhere, and they'll say, Tom, try the lamb. I got the lamb. It's really good. I don't like lamb. Or so I thought. Over the years, I've always said, okay, I'll try a piece, because nobody ever takes no for an answer. Come on, try it. The people are always pushing food on you, right? So I always try it and say, yeah, it's just too gamey. I don't really like it. Well, I was at 7 Miles about a month and a half ago with my buddy Octavian Spanner, and he got the lamb chops. And he couldn't finish it, so he gave me his last lamb chop. And I was still hungry. So, because I eat a lot. I don't know if you can tell. I've got this Buddha belly here now. And I was still hungry, so I said, you know what? I don't really like lamb that much, but I'm hungry, so I'm just going to eat it. Oh, my God. Jocelyn at Sevmars in Salem, New Hampshire, has the best lamb chops I have ever had in my life. And again, this is from a guy that doesn't like lamb, or so I thought. Apparently, it's just the way they make it. So we named, this is the dish that she's got right now. This is the lamb chop dinner. And this was so good that I named this this is going to be our first ever dish of the month. So from now on, we're going to do a dish of the month. We're going to go to different, because I eat out 4 nights a week anyway. So if I'm going to be out anyway, why not give some free shout-outs to the restaurant places in the Merrimack Valley that are doing a great job, even though that she's not a sponsor of this show. But just take a look at how good that looks, because actually just looking at that right now up on the screen makes me want to go there after the show and have some of that. But I can't. I got to go to Borelli's. All right. So in the studio we have today, and by the way, thank you, Chrissy. You've got something tonight, right?
Yeah, we've got music bingo at Sadie's Bar and Grill here in Salem, New Hampshire.
And the money's going to?
This month is TMF.
TMF.
Yep, all the proceeds going outside of prizes, obviously, go to TMF this month.
If it wasn't like the day of Frank's funeral, I'm sure everybody would be there tonight. But we're going to be there next week. I'm going to make an effort next week. We're definitely going to be there.
And then we need everyone there the week after, because the last Thursday of the month, that's the big, where we give the check over.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Yeah. All right. So for the next 2 weeks, we're going to be at Sadie's on Thursday nights. So Rich Russell, Vietnam veteran, a hero, by the way, and I don't say that lightly, a hero. He's actually in our book. He's in my book called Heroes in Our Midst. He's been a feature on the Valley Patriots Hero in Our Midst column, which is on the front page of every edition on the bottom fold. Has been running for city council for as long as I can remember, and has never really come close until the last election. And in the last election, he came in fourth out of I don't know. I think there were 9 initially.
It was 9 and
6 in the
then
final.
They kicked out 3, and then it was fourth out of 6.
So he came in fourth, but barely lost. And then Pavel Payano, who won that race, got elected state senator, which opened up a seat on the city council, which then went to Rich Russell.
By city charter.
So now, finally, Rich Russell finds himself on the city council. And Rich is one of these gadflies that always goes to every meeting anyway, long before he got on the council, and always had something to say. And so I thought, what a great way what a great thing it would be to have him here to talk, now that he's on the inside, about what has changed. Now that you're on the inside, you see how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
Is it better? Is it worse? What do you think?
It's worse. Yes. I've worked some slimy places as a surveyor. I've worked in railroad tunnels. I spent 3 years at night working in the MBTA tunnels. That place was clean compared to politics.
Politics.
You get into 200 Common Street. It's a different entity. Being the young pup, the senior citizen on the thing, but the young pup, age-wise, time-wise. You know how I'm treated. You can imagine.
I can imagine. I do watch some of those meetings. But I'll tell you that a lot of the councilors that I talk to privately say, especially, and I'm even going to tell you who one of them is, Estella Reyes.
Yeah, so I know.
Said to me one day, he used to really aggravate me when he'd get up at every meeting to talk. I didn't think he'd be a good counselor, but boy, he's turned out to be a pretty good counselor.
Well, that's the secret. I mean, I started doing what I was doing, the public participation, shortly before my wife died in 2011, and I lived close enough. I could walk down to City Hall in 10 minutes, so I'd be going out the front door, and my wife at the time, she'd be watching it on cable. She'd say, "Now remember, Rich, be nice." Well, my wife died in April of 2011. I don't have to be nice anymore. But it is what it is. And no, I've talked. I mean, I'll be honest. If looks could have killed, I would have. You would have been attending my funeral shortly after the the vote on the city budget because I voted against it. I mean, Estella sits next to me. I got good peripheral vision from being a surveyor. You know, I know what's going on. I could feel the look just burning. She did not like me voting against it, but again, there were issues in that budget I could not go for, and I mean, I was not the only one. If Giovanni Rodriguez, he voted against it, and I'm pretty sure somebody else would. If things had been a little bit different, I think there would have been another vote, but they needed 6 votes to pass the budget, so.
So what was so horrible in this budget? This is the Mayor DePina's budget.
Yes.
What was so horrible in this budget that made you vote no?
Him wanting to create new assistant positions, an assistant fire chief that outranked the deputy chiefs. Likewise, he wanted to create a new position, an assistant inspectional service director. Likewise, I don't think there was something involved with the police department too, and another position that he wanted to create. It was positions that he could create because they were outside civil service, and you know, and it was a position that it was not a department head, so it wouldn't come down to the council for our approval.
It would be a political position, is basically what you're telling me.
Yes, it would be. Yeah. And there were several names that were being bandied about as to who was going to be taking what positions, and several of those individuals were not well liked by the people that in that department.
Right.
You know,
right.
It is what it is. I'm not going to mention names, but again, it is what it is. I mean, I'm going to use a Howie Carr phrase, and he sells his stuff. I'm a cheap bastard. Okay. This money is coming out of. Most of the people in City Hall do not live in Lawrence, but they're spending the citizens' money like it's their own.
Right.
And I can't go for that. I'm a taxpayer, and I see my taxes go up. I paid $95,000 for my house 20-some odd years ago, and now it's up to it's assessed to $215,000.
Wow.
Yeah. Somebody want to give me $215? Fine, I'm out of here. Right. No, I'm not. I'll find another place. I'll find a closet to live in.
Although in all fairness, though, as someone who doesn't live in Lawrence and sees all of the millions and millions of dollars going into Lawrence,
I know it.
Those of us on the outside would really be happier if people in Lawrence were paying more of their own freight.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, but the thing that amazes me is there has not been a huge hue and cry from people outside of Lawrence that are saying, what do we got to show for what we're giving you?
Right.
All we got is crime statistics.
Right.
Allegedly we're the fentanyl capital of eastern Massachusetts, eastern New England.
Yep.
You know, I mean... well, that's something we can't...
Let's talk about crime for a minute. Because,
crime, yes.
I've got an item that I'm putting on, probably not the next agenda, but the one after that, because we've got something for TMF for the next agenda. The police department encrypted their scanner so that nobody could see what they were really doing.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Dan.
And, well, Dan and Roy, full disclosure, the stated reason was officer safety, which we all know is bullshit.
Yep.
And we all know that what it's really about is just
making the city look good.
Right, concealing the crime stats so that Lawrence doesn't look bad. As if Lawrence, as if the media didn't report on one crime stat in a year, people would go, "Oh, Lawrence is better now." Yeah. No one's thinking that.
Yeah. You can get the FBI crime stats, but they're what, a year?
Yeah.
Or a year and a half old. That doesn't do you any good.
Right.
I want to know what's happening basically right now. I mean, I'm at a point, well, I'm still a scanner enthusiast, and I mean, I'll be honest, to get some of the police news, I'm listening to the fire department, because fire department responds to a lot of police calls, where there's a medical incident involved in it.
Right.
And,
so I tried to work with Chief Montas.
Yeah.
I know you're going to say he's not the chief; it's Chief McCarty. But
I know.
But let's face it.
I know.
Chief McCarty's not the chief. Montas is actually the chief right now.
Yes.
And please save your hate mail, because I will totally go off on you if you give me hate mail on that one. So I tried to work with these guys, and the bullshit answers that I got were about, here's a picture of a guy that got shot that you posted on Facebook. Why should we let you have a scanner? And it's like, well, you either believe in transparency in government or you don't. And I don't see Boston, New York, San Francisco. Well, San Francisco, I think, might maybe going in that direction
a lot of them are going encrypted.
Right, but that's because they're starting to see that if they can conceal their crime stats, their mayors will look better.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, 2 meetings from now, have on the agenda to have the city council pass a city ordinance that makes the police scanner public the way it was before. Now, the way it was before is all the irregular calls were public. Mm-hmm. And then if they had a reason, like a good reason, there was an encrypted channel that they could go to. For example, there's a hostage situation. They don't want the guy in the house to have a scanner and know what door they're coming in. So they go over to the encrypted channel.
I can live with the system Methuen has. They have channel A, which is their basic regular duty channel, and then if there is something going on, like you said, a hostage situation or a shooting scenario or a very bad accident, they will go to channel B, which is encrypted. I got no problem with that.
I have no problem with that either, as long as they're not abusing it, right? So what we were finding is right before they encrypted the scanner, the police department started getting cute. And they knew that I was out there because I go live on Facebook. And all of a sudden, if it was a shooting, which is not a reason to go to an encrypted channel, all of a sudden everyone was told to go to channel B or TAC 2. And then they would dispatch the shooting call, and I would have to actually like drive through the city and find a cruiser that's whipping through the city, and then follow them to the scene to find out what was going on. Then I'd get there and find out it was a shooting. So we know that this is about concealing crime stats so that they can lie about their crime stats to the public. I've tried very hard to work with these guys. Will you, while you're on the city council, will you help me push?
I definitely will.
To make this a city ordinance and make it happen.
You and I, and there was one other individual, were the 3 people that were the cause of them going encrypted. That's no secret.
And we need to reverse it now while you and Estella are still on the city council. Because come January, that may change. And I don't want to have to, I don't want to have to fight for another 2 more years to get a scanner. And let's face it, and I don't want to eat up too much more time on this because there's other stuff to get to, but, I was told multiple times by people on, say, Brook Street in Lawrence, they'd say, I'd hear gunshots outside, and I had to go to work, and I was afraid to go out and get into my car to go to work because I heard gunshots. But then I put on the scanner, and I'd hear them say, hey, car 422 to the station, it's a bunch of kids with fireworks. Then I knew it was safe to go outside. Or I'd hear, we've got multiple victims, there's guns, and then I'd know not to go outside. And so this isn't just something for the press, for us. This is for the public to understand. Listen, they work for us. And in the age of George Floyd, shame on Captain Montas, by the way, but in the age of George Floyd, where we're being told by the media and by minorities and by the Democrat Party that cops are out there gunning down brown people for fun, why would they then allow, if they really believed that, why would they then allow the police scanner to be encrypted so we can't watch what the police are doing?
I know it.
You know what I'm saying?
The thing that gets me is that their basic thing is, well, they could have a scanner. Well, it's a federal crime to be in possession of a scanner using it during a crime, listening. Why don't they go after them? On federal charges and really slap them. Do it a couple of times, and people are going to wake up.
I was promised by June 1st I'd have a scanner. And the chief shook my hand. And he gave me his word. What's the date today, Trissy?
August 17th.
August 17th, we still don't have a scanner. So I've been quiet about this for a long time because I'm trying to give them a chance to actually do the right thing. But now I think I'm done waiting.
Well, okay, now this is something a lot of people don't realize. When they went encrypted, I did get the RFP for the new radio system. They were supposed to get a system very similar to what the state police have, a trunk system. And you could have had upwards of, you could have put the entire police and DPW, well, the DPW, they use their cell phones anyways, but you could have put the entire city radio communication system on a trunk system. Okay? The police could have had an encrypted channel. I mean, the state police got encrypted channels, but I listened to the state police all the way out to Worcester.
Me too.
I listened to DINREC, well, that's down in Delaware, but Natural Resources. I listened to them almost up to the New York line on that system. The system can work. But all of a sudden, when it came time to do the system, I won't mention who it was, they decided to, no, let's forget about the trunk system. I mean, I got the paperwork at home somewhere. Let's forget about the trunk system. let's just get another channel. Okay, they kept the SNU channel, the one at 453 meg, and they kept the 482 channel, and then they gave them 1 or 2 channels up in 460. How is that really improving our system? It
It's
didn't.
not.
It didn't.
No.
No. But again, you know, and I know why it was done. It was done under the guise of improving the image of Lawrence being a safe place.
Yeah, and no one's going to ever believe that, whether you encrypt your scanner or not.
I know it.
And no one's ever going to believe that. Yeah. So, and the rank and file that I talked to want this to be unencrypted. They want the public to be able to see what's going on.
They could live with public transparency, but the ones that I've talked to,
it's the higher ups. It's the sergeants, the captains, the lieutenants.
They don't want instantaneous transparency,
right.
but they can live with maybe a 5-minute delay.
Yeah, we negotiated that.
Yeah.
And then Captain Montas put a stop to it.
Yeah, it is.
And because he's friends with the mayor, all of a sudden everything came to a grinding halt, and I get total bullshit excuses now.
Yeah.
I've been waiting. We met in March, and I was told June 1st, and it's now August. So, all right, we got a couple of other things to get to. We get 9 minutes. So on the Lynette Perez scandal, she applied for money. It looked like it was pretty much a fake nonprofit, but because she was the mayor's campaign manager, nobody's done anything about it. As a member of the city council, did that come? Is that something that comes before you, and is that something that you guys are concerned about, or have you guys all kind of moved on? Because I haven't moved on that.
We just approved basically $4.4 million in grants. Now, whether she was part of the grants or not, I mean, I have a thing against Lawrence General.
Good for you.
Lawrence General, they came up and they were looking for almost $52,000 for a pregnancy tracking program.
Yeah.
They got $50,000. Wait a minute. Giving money to Lawrence General, and I mean, I've heard that there are some people that are involved in the tracking program that are related to some officials in the city government.
Shocking.
Yes, shocking. But again, isn't giving money to Lawrence General like sending coal to Newcastle?
It's like giving money to the Red Cross.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. You know, I mean, you got a CEO, the one that left. I mean, 2021, she made $800,000, and she had a $100,000 or $150,000 bonus. You got 6 or 8 board of directors that are making anywhere between $300,000 and $400,000 as board of directors, along with being a doctor at the hospital.
Right.
They couldn't have thrown a hat in the middle of the card table and said, well, here's $10,000, here's a couple of thousand,
right.
and made up the difference.
Right. Well, not only that, they pay no taxes. They pay no taxes to the city, and they're always coming to the city looking for money.
Well, yeah, well, again.
This is the kind of interview I was expecting out of Stephanie Infante, quite frankly.
Okay.
I got to tell you, when I kept asking her, like, what's coming up on the council?
Yeah.
And she was always like, she's very diplomatic because she's such a nice person. She tries to be nice. Rich doesn't try to be nice. That's what I love about her.
I dig. I'll be honest. I dig. But again, I do it in a manner that, quite frankly, using the language, I don't piss people off.
Right.
You know, I leave them saying, Jesus.
I'm pretty sure we pissed people off today.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
for
I don't
sure.
care. Okay, back 3 or 4 years ago when Lawrence General built their new wing, that was a $28 million project. You know what the city got out of that? $280,000 in construction fees. That was it. That's all the city of Lawrence is ever going to see out of that $28 million. And, I mean, I got a lot of weird things running through my head. I hear the fire department going up there a lot of times for, false alarms or faulty alarm equipment.
Right.
Start charging them.
Right. Well, not only that, they were firing their heroes after COVID because they refused to get a shot.
Yeah.
Now, these poor nurses, these poor technicians, these doctors that were considered heroes during COVID because they worked before there was a vaccine.
Yep.
They were working one-on-one with literally with COVID patients that were dying. And then when the federal government said, no, we want everyone to have a vaccine because Pfizer needs to make more money.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the hospital told all their workers, if you don't get the vaccine, you're fired. You're fired. You worked before there was a vaccine and put your life on the line, and then they fired people.
Okay,
I wouldn't give these people a fucking dime.
This one you're going to appreciate. You know I'm a little off the wall.
This is my favorite show all year, I got to tell you right now.
I put an agenda item on there. I want, now, President Biden in his infinite wisdom created a lot of COVID money. And then Congress changed it from COVID to ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act. Okay?
Right.
Well, the way the money is being distributed, that ARPA doesn't stand for the rescue plan. It's another robbery politically authorized. Okay? I put this on the agenda. I said, anybody in the city of Lawrence, any Lawrence resident that can prove that they got either a COVID vaccine or they stood in line and froze their ass off, in January, February to get a COVID test. And I worked there at VCS. I was getting tests every 2 weeks because I didn't want to possibly impact any of the veterans that came in there.
Right.
I froze my ass off, but being a surveyor, I'm used to it. So I put the thing on the agenda. Anyone that can prove that they had the shot or they had a test, give them $100 out of the COVID money.
Right. No? They didn't want to do that?
We'll take this under advisement and send it up to the mayor's office. That was on July 14th. Wow. Guess where it is?
Nowhere.
Still up on the mayor's. Right. Here's another one. I use the phrase cheap bastard. I got a thing against the stipends. If they can pay you more money for doing something extra beyond your job assignment, you're being underworked in your job.
No, overworked.
No, you're being underworked. If you can squeeze in work to do for the stipend. Yeah. I put that on the thing. That was on, that went on June 2nd. Okay, now, I took it up before Tim Hooton. I said, Tim, this is what I want to do.
He has turned out to be totally useless. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to say what everyone else thinks is afraid to say.
He's becoming a company man.
He's a nice guy, but he's turned out to be totally useless.
So he wrote the ordinance. He created the ordinance numbers and everything. It came down before the ordinance committee. You know what the ordinance committee did? Let's send it up to the city attorney to see if it's legal. Come on, the guy wrote the damn thing. I have no idea where that thing is.
We got 3 minutes left.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about some of the positive things that made opinion? Because we've kicked them a little bit today. I'm looking at the number of streets that are being paved. I'm looking at a lot of the construction that's going on. He's trying to get Lawrence to regain control of their schools. Can we talk about some of that?
Yeah, sure. I got no problem with the Lawrence trying to regain schools. I don't know why. What's his face? Jeff Riley's got such a thing about keeping control of it, the system. I would just as soon get rid of it.
Right.
Give us another 10 years, and then the state can take us over again.
Right.
But I mean, hell, high school, they can't teach boys how to wear pants properly.
Right.
They
don't teach them how to tell time. They can't do math in their head.
Yeah.
But they all know about abortion, global warming, and gay marriage.
Yeah, and if we get her pregnant, she's got a daycare center for the kid next year. I mean, it's stuff like that. Yeah, Brian is doing a good job. I like him. He's a very personable individual. He's out there. Yes, he's getting stuff done. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's being done that's
years in the making.
That should have been done. But there's a lot of things that are being done, and there's a lot of shortcuts that are being taken. And, okay, all those streets up there, up between Park and Arlington, that they made one way, the citizens were not notified at all that was going to happen.
Right.
I mean, I say all of us is, what's her face? Anna and Selena, I assume, are still catching hell. How come we didn't find out about this stuff? But, it is what it is. Other than that.
Doing a great job with the road pavings.
Oh, yeah. I like the three big ass sinkholes. We got one on West Street.
Yeah.
We got one there that's been in front of on Broadway, and then they just got another one that showed up at Broadway and Lowell Street. They got barrels, Again, how come we don't have an inspector out there checking this stuff to make sure this stuff is good to go?
Right.
I mean, I look at it, I mean, I admit I've got a construction background. I've been around it. I know a lot more than a few people.
You're running for re-election. We got a minute left.
Okay.
You're running for re-election. How do people get in touch with you? How do they make a donation? People should donate. Rich doesn't have a lot of money, so you should donate.
Yeah, Facebook, Rich Russell.
Okay.
That's my basic thing.
Do you have like a PayPal or something that people can send you money? No.
They just get a hold of me. My address is out there. They can send. Well, legally, I can't accept donations. Excuse me for saying legally. We know what goes on. One last thing before we kill the show. You talked about the comedy.
Yes.
Night, yeah.
Friday night, come.
How do you think today's woke society would do if Archie Bunker and Red Fox showed
Oh,
up?
Jesus Christ. There'd be a total meltdown all over the country. Can you imagine if Andrew Dice Clay?
Oh, Jesus.
Can you imagine these people would have, the hospitals would be full. They'd all be having aneurysms.
I know it. You know, and
sissies.
and I got to say one thing, and I think you'll agree with me. You know what I used to do on Facebook, and I think Brenda's doing a pretty good job in keeping the reins tight on me because it's hell being a nice guy. It sucks. You know it.
I have no idea what being a nice guy is like. So I have no clue.
Way back when, Tom.
All right, let's roll up, Mel. Thank you very much to Rich Russell. You got to come back. This was fun.
Yeah.
I had a lot of times I'll have people here and I'll like struggle to get them to keep talking. And this was a lot of fun because you don't hold anything back, which is great.
Everybody deserves to hear the truth.
If only more politicians were like you, boy, I'll tell you, the public would be so much more informed. I want to thank McLennan Real Estate, Century 21. Free shout out to JG's Ice Cream. Pleasant Valley Landscaping, Dave Idconsoli. We're going to get him to Sevmar to try the lamb chops. AFC Urgent Care, Mercurio Law Office, Clear Path for Veterans, New England, Tomo and Shaken Seafood, Borelli's Deli, EIS Investigation, Marston Inside Construction, Zany Pesci Law Office, who did I miss? Stacks in Haverhill, Loaded in Haverhill, and Par 28 right here in Salem, New Hampshire. Tonight, go to Sadie's. What time, Chrissy?
We kick off at 6:30.
6:30 for Music Bingo. The money is going to go to TMF that helps the homeless in Lawrence. And don't forget, tomorrow night at 8:30 at China Blossom, I'm going to be judging the comedy contest. It's going to be a lot of fun. Sounds like Melvin Taylor says you got to go home.
Before you go,
yep.
Don't forget the bash, the end of next March.
Yes. 20th anniversary bash.
20th anniversary.
So go home already.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.